So those of you who were here last week might remember me arguing that every Torah study should begin with something universal and something about life. So this week is an exception. I'm going to begin with Torah because I think it's because in this week's Torah portion there is a very, not universal, but universally known, very widely known verse. So, Torah portion Mishpatim, it lists lots of laws of human coexistence, of ethics, but also of some judiciary principles as well. And this one is a very famous phrase, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, stripe for stripe. So, very early in Jewish intellectual history, Torah scholars concluded that it is impossible to implement this Torah verse in life. And it's a fascinating example of something that's written down and that rabbis or Torah scholars said it's impossible to do. Maimonides, the famous Spanish commentator or Spanish-Egyptian Torah scholar, wrote, this Torah statement doesn't mean that we should physically injure the perpetrator, but that the perpetrator is deserving of losing his limb and must therefore pay financial restitution. Mahatma Gandhi famously said, an eye for an eye will make the whole world blind. There is no way of inflicting exactly the same pain to others as others did to you. Therefore, rabbis interpreted this Torah text to mean financial compensation. Another way to understand this verse is to look at the time and place which it was written. I might surprise you, but the Torah is not the only document that survived from the Middle East that survived until our days. The Babylonian Code of Hammurabi, written in the 18th century before the Common Era, arguably before the Torah, explicitly legislated that noble's eye was much more valuable than farmer's eye. In contrast, the Torah law says that every person's eye is as valuable as another's eye. So the eye of a president is worth no more than the eye of a soldier or farmer. Therefore, the Torah law, eye for eye, might be interpreted as a dialogue with the Hammurabi law, or maybe other laws that around them. And therefore, what it actually means is that we are all equal. There is no difference in us as people. It is the principle of equity and equality that we should try to apply today, and not the direct ask for revenge. When the world leaders divide people and use human lives as deadly weapons as a political tool, I think we must oppose it. When the world leaders are too proud to compromise, we must stop for a moment and remind ourselves that human life is more important than anything else. When individuality prevails over humanity, when the pursuit of power and influence overrides the basic care and concern for the safety and well-being of people, when the songs of blind patriotism and nationalism sound louder than songs of peace, it is texts like this that reminds us of something basic, that we are all the same on some very natural and basic level. There is also another text, quite famous text from the prophet Amos, that remind us, take away from me the noise of your songs, he says on behalf of God. I will not listen to the melody of your harps, but only let justice roll down like water and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. This was and still is part of our liturgy, this phrase, especially the last two lines. And those of you who are interested in art, one of the latest additions to this synagogue is the stained glass in John Rayner's room, and one of the glasses is exactly on this theme. Let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. Please note that it is not only justice that the prophet demands, but righteousness too. It is not enough to be right, but acting with integrity, compassion, and kindness makes the nation great. Israel Matak, the first rabbi of this synagogue, lived through both the First and the Second World Wars. And in the middle of the First World War, in 1915, he delivered a sermon entitled, "The Challenge to Religion in War." And in it, he reminded people of the most basic values we all share, regardless of what side we take in the conflict. So in the middle of the war, Israel Matak stands here in this synagogue. It looked differently, but this synagogue, this place, and says, do we not even now pray with all our hearts for comfort and strength to be given to the suffering of all nations? Yet, not even the loud din, which is judgment or court, justice, of the battlefield, can silence the call of one human heart to another. Shot and shell cannot break the cords of sympathy that bind together aching hearts. Humanity, he says, is one. And remember, members of this synagogue were serving in the army at that moment, and they were there. I want to conclude my thought, it's not Israel Matak anymore, with a few phrases from Sidur Lev Chadash, from our prayer book. Teach us, O God, to be ourselves because of and in spite of our past and present circumstances. Teach us to be our best selves because of our abilities and in spite of our weaknesses. Teach us to be not what others expect of us, but what you expect of us, and what we at our best expect of ourselves. Teach us to be what only we can be, to contribute our own song to the great concert of your world. במקום שאין אנשים ישתדל להיות איש, where no one behaves like human beings, you should try and behave like one. Shabbat Shalom.